7 secrets of peak performance. Two of my classmates in college hoped to have careers in publishing. Each of them was very talented, very personable, really nice personalities. Both of them were quite ambitious, and yet one of them now heads a multi-million-dollar book company, while the other one has a fairly dull, boring, modestly paying job editing business directories. Now, why has one of them flown so much higher than the other? It's not because of luck, good luck or bad. It's not because of connections, dedication to work, nothing like that. It's simply because one of them is a peak performer and the other isn't. The Peak Performance Center, which is in Berkeley, California, has studied over 1,500 outstanding achievers in nearly every walk of life, and they found certain traits in common. Typical things that are not innate, people aren't born with, but can be learned by anyone. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that everyone can become a company president or win an Olympic medal, but it does mean that all of us can learn to make more of the gifts we have, make better use of what we can do. And based on some research, here are 7 steps that it can lead you to become a peak performer. The first thing is to lead a well-rounded life. Now, what does this mean? We often hear that high achievers are type A personalities, they're hard-driving, they're obsessed, they bring their work home, they work all hours, but the research suggests this isn't true. People like this, type A personalities, tend to peak early, then go into a decline and eventually level off. They become addicted to the work itself and are much less concerned with the results. High performers, in contrast, are willing to work hard, really go at it, but they stay within quite strict limits, and they maintain those limits. Work doesn't become their whole life. It's not everything to them. Garfield, who was one of the researchers, interviewed top executives in 10 major industries, and he found that those that were considered peak performers could relax outside of the office. They had many close friends. They prized those close friends. They had a good family life, good relationships with their families, and they spent a healthy amount of time with their children and their spouses. The second thing you can do to be a peak performer is to select a career that you really care about. Now, the college classmates that I was talking about previously, the one that isn't doing so well, editing business directories, the reason he chose that path is because he thought it would bring him big bucks, a larger salary. When in fact it hasn't, because he's pretty much had to drag himself off to work every day, because he doesn't care about his job. And as a result of that, he's not motivated, and hence he's not a peak performer. And he never did get the pay that he hoped for. The other guy has made a lot more money, and he's a lot happier, and he's a more successful human being because he enjoys and loves what he does. So, select a career that you are interested in, that you care about, that you know you will like, and that you enjoy. Not one that you think is going to bring you the big bucks, the big payoff, and then end up, it probably isn't going to happen. Another thing they found is that rehearsing challenging tasks mentally can in fact help make you a peak performer. Before any difficult or important situation, be it a board meeting, a public appearance, a tennis match, peak performers run through their desired actions in their minds over and over. You're probably all familiar with Jack Nicklaus, the golfer. He never takes a golf shot without first mentally visualizing exactly the exact movement of his swing, the exact flight of the ball, the spot where it's going to land, everything. He mentally rehearses it or visualizes it. There was a pianist in China who was in prison for 7 years during the Cultural Revolution, and when he got out of prison, he played just as well as when he went in 7 years earlier. And his explanation for this was that he practiced every day in his mind. Another key to peak performance is seek results, not perfection. Many ambitious and hardworking people are so obsessed with perfection, that getting everything just perfect, that they turn out very little work. There's a professor I knew spent 10 years preparing a study about a particular playwright, and he was so scared that he was going to miss something that he kept holding back and never sent in the manuscript to the publisher. Well, meanwhile, the playwright, who was at the height of his fame when my friend's project began, had faded from public view after that 10 years. And even though eventually the study was published, it interested few people. People had lost interest in the playwright. So because it wasn't perfect, he was so reluctant to get it published that by the time he did, it was too late. Next suggestion, be willing to take risks. It's important to be a risk taker. Most people stay in what Garfield calls the comfort zone. We kind of settle for stuff that is secure, which often means we settle for mediocrity and boredom rather than taking chances. I know an opera soprano who had a splendid voice. She was a great actress, but she would only take the smallest of roles. She always said, well, I don't want to take the responsibility of a major role. The whole evening would depend on me. The audience would be listening to my every note. If it flopped, I'd